The silence was the first sign something was terribly wrong. The usual hum of machinery, the clatter of tools, and the voices of thousands of workers were all gone, replaced by an uneasy stillness that seemed to echo through the vast, empty halls. On what should have been a routine day, Boeing's Everett factory, usually alive with the thunder of industry, fell eerily quiet. The world's largest building by volume, once bustling with energy, now stood as a silent monument to uncertainty. The assembly lines, once a hive of activity, stood motionless. Tools were left mid-task, and half-finished jets sat abandoned, as if frozen in time. This wasn't a holiday or a drill. There was no warning, no scheduled break, just a sudden, unexplained halt. The news broke. China had canceled all Boeing aircraft orders, effective immediately. Phones buzzed with alerts, and workers gathered in stunned silence, reading the headlines in disbelief. It was a direct, devastating blow to America's aerospace giant. The company's future, once secure, was now thrown into chaos. Beijing's announcement cited escalating U.S. trade aggression as the reason. The message was delivered with chilling clarity, leaving no room for negotiation. For years, China was Boeing's largest customer, a lifeline now severed in an instant. The partnership that had fueled growth and innovation was gone, replaced by uncertainty and fear. Hundreds of planes, already built for Chinese airlines, were left grounded, their futures uncertain. Each jet represented months of labor, now with nowhere to go. The message was clear. China was ready to use its economic power in this trade war. The stakes had never been higher, and the world was watching. Workers arriving for their shifts were told to go home, their jobs suddenly in jeopardy. Families who depended on Boeing faced an uncertain future, with paychecks and livelihoods hanging in the balance. The shutdown was total, not a pause, an abrupt halt to the intricate ballet of manufacturing. Wall Street panicked as the ripple effects spread far beyond the factory floor. Boeing's stock plummeted, erasing billions in hours. Investors watched in horror as years of growth vanished in a single trading session. Investors scrambled, and the crisis quickly became a national emergency. The government convened urgent meetings, searching for answers as the economic shockwaves intensified. The shutdown of America's largest exporter signaled a dangerous new phase in U.S.-China conflict. The world's two largest economies were now locked in a standoff with global consequences. The question now, how deep would the wounds go? For Boeing, its workers, and the nation, the future had never felt more uncertain. This wasn't just a random act of retaliation or a knee-jerk response. Instead, it was the dramatic climax of months, if not years, of steadily escalating tension between the world's two largest economies. Just days earlier, Washington had announced a sweeping ban on all advanced semiconductor sales to China, a move designed to cripple Beijing's technological ambitions and slow its progress in critical industries like artificial intelligence and supercomputing. For Beijing, this wasn't just another trade tactic. It was seen as a form of economic warfare, a direct attempt to contain China's rise on the global stage. The U.S. justified the ban by arguing it was necessary to protect its technological edge, national security, and even the future of its own economy. But for China, the move was interpreted as an existential threat, a betrayal of the very principles of free trade and open markets that the U.S. had long championed. By targeting Boeing, China didn't just hit a major American company, it struck at a powerful symbol of U.S. manufacturing, innovation, and economic strength. This move was carefully calculated to inflict maximum pain, disrupt key industries, and ramp up the pressure on Washington to reconsider its aggressive stance. The message wasn't just for the White House or policymakers. It was aimed squarely at American workers, families, and entire communities who depend on these industries for their livelihoods. What began as a trade dispute had now spiraled into a full-blown domestic crisis for the United States, with real consequences for everyday Americans. This crisis has deep roots in decades of uneasy cooperation and competition. The relationship between the United States and China has always been complex, marked by moments of hope and periods of suspicion. Both nations have long recognized the power and influence the other holds on the world stage. After Nixon's historic 1972 visit, U.S. companies like Boeing rushed into China, betting that engagement would lead to mutual prosperity and a new era of global partnership. American businesses saw China as a land of opportunity, while China welcomed foreign investment to fuel its modernization. China soon became the world's factory, producing everything from electronics to clothing, while America became its biggest and most lucrative customer. The flow of goods and capital seemed endless, binding the two economies together. But as China's ambitions grew, so did U.S. concerns over trade practices, intellectual property theft, and military expansion. The balance of power began to shift, and trust started to erode. The old partnership frayed, replaced by a new era of strategic rivalry and suspicion. Cooperation gave way to competition, and both sides began to prepare for a more contentious future. By the late 2010s, the U.S. officially labeled China a strategic competitor, signaling a dramatic shift in policy and public perception. Tariffs and counter-tariffs soon followed, escalating into a full-blown trade war that affected businesses and consumers on both sides of the Pacific. Each side dug in, turning economic interdependence into a weapon. What once brought prosperity now fueled uncertainty and fear, as jobs and industries hung in the balance. The 2025 semiconductor ban was just the latest and most aggressive move in this ongoing struggle for technological supremacy and national security. Boeing, once a shining symbol of U.S.-China cooperation and shared progress, became collateral damage in the escalating conflict. The company was caught in a geopolitical crossfire it couldn't control, its fate now tied to forces far beyond the boardroom. The silent factories were a stark reminder. In this new era of rivalry, even the most iconic partnerships can unravel, and even giants can fall. The impact on Boeing was immediate and catastrophic. The Everett and Renton factories, employing tens of thousands, fell silent. Hundreds of jets built for China sat idle. No buyers, no revenue. China's canceled orders erased a third of Boeing's backlog, wiping out decades of business. Leadership froze spending and halted production, scrambling to survive. Layoff threats loomed for workers, many with careers spanning generations. Local businesses, dependent on Boeing paychecks, braced for disaster. The company's identity as a symbol of American innovation was shaken. Empty factories and grounded planes became a national symbol of vulnerability. Boeing's shutdown sent shockwaves through its vast supply chain. Thousands of suppliers across all 50 states, building engines, electronics, and more, suddenly lost their biggest customer. Companies like Spirit AeroSystems in Kansas announced mass layoffs, rippling through local economies. Small manufacturers nationwide faced crisis, staring into the abyss. An estimated 1.5 million American jobs tied to aerospace were at risk. Communities contracted, home values dropped, businesses closed, tax revenues dried up. The crisis exposed the fragility of America's industrial base. Decades of just-in-time efficiency left no buffer for a shock like this. The intricate web of suppliers became a channel for economic contagion. A single geopolitical decision had brought American factories to a halt. The Boeing crisis quickly became a global aviation emergency. Airlines worldwide, counting on Boeing for fleet expansion, scrambled for alternatives. Airbus, already at capacity, couldn't fill the gap, creating a severe aircraft shortage. Airlines delayed retiring old planes, raising costs and emissions. Routes were cut, ticket prices soared, and travel options shrank. Developing nations, reliant on Boeing, faced economic setbacks and isolation. The crisis widened the gap between rich and poor countries. The world's reliance on Boeing and Airbus was suddenly exposed as a vulnerability. The shutdown was a stark warning: global systems are more fragile than they seem. This was no longer just about Boeing, it was about the future of global mobility. We stand at a crossroads. Boeing's shutdown is more than an economic crisis, it's a wake-up call. China has shown it can weaponize economic ties, targeting America's industrial core. The U.S. faces a dilemma: double down on trade war, or seek a truce and risk appearing weak. The livelihoods of millions hang in the balance. The world must now reckon with the weaponization of economic interdependence. Companies and nations will rethink global supply chains, leading to a more fragmented world. As Boeing's silent factories loom, we must ask, is this the dawn of a new Cold War, or can the world's giants step back from the brink?